Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to Washington Post Live. I'm Jackie Alamany. I'm a congressional correspondent and co author of the early newsletter here at the Post. Thanks so much for joining us today. The Biden administration issued an executive order mandating that all federal employees get the COVID-19 vaccination. Here to talk to us about the challenges that lay ahead in enforcing this mandate, as well as the future of work for the federal government, is the director of the Office of Personnel Management, Kiran Ahuja. Director Ahuja, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here.
And let's start by talking about this mandate, the federal employee vaccination mandate. You sent a memo last week that laid out the timeline for enforcing this mandate, pointing out that federal employees need to be vaccinated by November 8th, or at least have received their first vaccination. This is barely a month away. Do you have a sense as to how many federal employees have yet to prove their vaccination status?
Yes, great question. And I want to dive right into that. I hope you will give me just a minute to say hello to everyone and just introduce myself as the OPM Director. And for those who may not know very much about the Office of Personnel Management, our tagline should be more than just the snow days, because we actually really we're involved in the lifespan of a federal employee from when they come on and they're hired to when they retire, as well as doing a lot of the work around the vaccine mandate and, of course, thinking about future of work. I had my time in the Office of Personnel Management during the Obama administration. I also was a part of the transition team for the Biden-Harris transition team, and have a great affinity for this organization that has been through a great deal in the past few years, facing a merger, and really working to rebuild this agency, and of course support my partners, our agency partners across the federal government. So just wanted to take a few minutes to introduce myself. And of course, right now we are collecting the data on what the vaccination rates look like in the federal government. That is a part of this process. We know that vaccines are the best tool that we have in our toolbox. I'm sure all of you saw that we hit an unfortunate milestone this past week or weekend where 700,000 deaths are related to COVID. We know the vaccines are the best way to combat the pandemic and to keep our workforce safe and the communities and families that surround them. So that's the work that we're doing right now to ensure that we are moving towards that that timeline and deadline of November 22nd. And as you know, we've put forward an enforcement guidance and are working to make sure that we are getting the materials and education out to the federal workforce to encourage them to get vaccinated.
And we are definitely going to get back to some of your responsibilities as the head of human resources for the largest employer in the country, a little bit later in the conversation. So I just want you to know that. But I'm wondering, on the issue of vaccination, how exactly are you tracking the implementation of this policy across all of these federal agencies?
Well, we have a very robust task force. We play a leadership role on this task force. We have OMB, and we have other agencies as well, GSA, a number of other agencies. So it's a very coordinated effort, and there are tons of phone calls and engagement. There's a whole effort that takes place related to what the guidance that we'll issue at any given moment, and there's quite a bit that we're putting out there. So it's a fairly coordinated effort. We have a number of staff involved, and we are also tracking, like I mentioned, pulling the data every week of where agencies are in their vaccination rates to get a real sense in real time what they're going to be looking at from week to week and meeting our deadline.
And we already know that these mandates have seen some level of success, at least with some private companies that have implemented them, and then also in other countries that implemented federal mandates far before we have. But the memo says that employees who refuse to be vaccinated or provide proof of vaccination are subject to disciplinary measures up to including removal or termination from federal service. How are you preparing for employees who are who might refuse to comply with the vaccination mandate?
Absolutely. We are looking at this as, this is not about removing people from the federal government. We care deeply about our federal workforce, and like I said, and we'll talk about later, which is really the kind of hiring that we need to do right now in the federal government. We're focused on getting folks vaccinated. We think it's the best tool that we have. And so this enforcement guidance that we've put out is with that in mind. This is really about pushing or encouraging folks towards compliance. We believe it's fair but firm. There's a three-step process that really focuses on education and counseling, and then a period if there isn't compliance, that the federal employee will have a little bit longer to really consider what's at stake, and then of course moving into removal proceedings as really the last kind of phase of this, and really not something we are wanting to see. And we are seeing success in other, with other companies where they've issued mandates and they've had, incredible success. United, Tyson Foods, there's just a few where they're getting 90% plus. So our hope is that, we have really set out something that is, very thoughtful. It's very much focused on getting folks vaccinated, not removing them from their positions. And, this is guidance. So agencies have a lot of discretion in whether they want to add more steps. They have unique situations that they may be managing. And so we wanted to leave room for that.
So after counseling and going through the
Mm-hmm.
preliminary steps, do you have a hard deadline for the period of when an employee potentially refuses to comply after you've taken all other measures, and between the period of that potentially having to terminate their employment?
We don't. We say that, the process can start as soon as, we know that November 8th is going to be based on when you need to get your last shot, depending on the particular vaccine, to be fully vaccinated according to the CDC guidelines. So certainly agencies can start as soon as, November 9th to start to determine which individuals or which employees in their agency haven't attested to vaccination, haven't shown the documentation. But there is no kind of, drop dead date where by which, there's an expectation that, if employees are not vaccinated, that they will be removed. We will anticipate individuals asking for accommodations. Like I said, agencies have a lot of purview and how they want to think about those steps in the enforcement guidance. So there's no kind of final deadline. And there is a process that I think we hold dear in the federal government, which is the due process that we're setting out for what it means to follow this directive.
There's so much uncharted territory that you're dealing with here, from remote work to now these vaccination mandates. How was this decision made, and what role did you play in developing this mandate, the vaccination mandate?
This is something the president feels, very strongly about. I mean, I think we were all planning, around the summertime of what it was going to look like to have, come back into the office, have a hybrid work environment. Certainly we were planning that in many ways of what that future of work looks like. I think there's a lot of excitement around what is possible around telework and remote work. And I think, looking to see what we were combating with the Delta variant, what that meant as far as, managing this variant, also looking at the trends of vaccination rates and that those were slowing down, that the president felt strongly that we needed to use every tool in our toolbox. The vaccine is the safest, most effective way to combat this pandemic, and that's what we're trying to do.
And I want to pivot to a slightly different topic, the future of work. As my colleague Heather Long has called it, that we are witnessing a great realignment at the moment as well, simultaneously as people are sort of adjusting to new work modes. You have said that the federal government should be the model employer in this country, and at the top of your agenda is redefining what the future of work looks like. What does that mean to you? What is your vision of the future of work?
Yes, I mean, I think, okay, just for sheer kind of competition, we have to be leaning into telework, remote work. We are the largest employer, but we need to stay competitive. I think we have a lot going for us as far as our mission and the kind of work that individuals can engage in the federal government, and that's a part of my mission as well, is that really drumming, the drumbeat of how great it is to be in public service. And a part of that is, the flexibilities, the workplace flexibilities. So we are thinking long and hard of both what that could look like in government, where there are opportunities to expand our applicant pool as far as individuals that we can be tapping to come into the federal government. So we see it as really a win-win, that we're able to, really broaden our reach. We're able to attract people to the federal government because we have those flexibilities. And we know that that's our competition. I will say also around future of work, we see ourselves as a model employer, and we want to couple that with, as well, being a leader in paid leave and in other aspects of what it means to be a good employer. So we're really kind of doing these in a very integrated fashion. And my hope is, we do have some limitations right now with our laws and regs, and those are conversations we're looking forward to having with our colleagues on the Hill to work in partnership to really remove some of those obstacles.
And I feel like I reported on this sort of anecdotally and heard it from my sources over the course of 4 years of the Trump administration. But this is something that you are sort of dealing with the wreckage of firsthand. I'm wondering how the mission of making the federal government the model employer was disrupted during the Trump administration, in your opinion.
Sure. I mean, I started off, in my unannounced intro of just saying that, I came back to this agency because of, I cared deeply about the work. I cared deeply about the people in this agency, and also what this agency faced during the Trump administration, which was a potential merger, which had a significant impact on the kind of attrition that we saw here. And, okay, so this is OPM, but in other cases with my colleagues and other agencies, they face, similar attrition rates. And so I think, we're trying to both support our agency partners and help them in the kind of surge hiring that needs to take place. I was just out at George Mason University talking about there is no better time to come in to the federal government than right now, because there is this significant hiring that's taking place to rebuild these institutions. Also, how we have shown up in the pandemic, and we will continue to do that. That means people that we need in these agencies, and so I think part of our work is certainly trying to make our agencies whole, but they are also very engaged and excited about the work ahead. We want to support hopefully, what will be coming our way, which is the work around the infrastructure bill, around the president's Build Back Better agenda. I mean, these are really exciting times and really important times. We want to make sure we're ready to attack climate change. And these are the kinds of things that we want to be working on. And we need institutions that are strong and are at their optimal strengths to be able to do the work we need to do. And finally, I'll just say, a part of wanting to really encourage more individuals to come in, certainly I'm focused on early career talent, is that, we do think this is also about building trust in government. That I always saw when I was, coming into this work, that I saw government as a force of change. And I do think that's true. I think that's the commitment we have to public service. And that's the message that I will continue to give, both in this forum and in other places.
And I know that there are a number of pending confirmations at the moment, and some agencies that still have not been completely staffed up. Do you feel like the government is firing on all four cylinders at the moment, or are there still some more pieces that need to be put in place?
Certainly, there's one aspect of this, which is, bringing in the political leadership in the agencies across the government, which is incredibly important. There is also significant hiring within the civil service that is happening across the agencies for really key positions, and certainly, modernizing our IT infrastructure, cybersecurity, economists, accountants. I mean, you name it, there are positions that you go on our USA Jobs website, there are a host of positions that are ones that we need to fill. So I would say that I always say we're building the plane while flying it. There's a lot coming at us, and folks are working really hard. But I'll tell you, just even more personally, in my agency, it is not uncommon for me to hear from my senior leadership and from employees that their roles right now are basically the hats of two or three individuals or the equivalent, and that's just not sustainable. And so, in order for us to do the job well, to make sure that we are focused on customer experience and customer delivery, we have to make sure that our agencies are staffed and done well and smartly in a way that is using the government's resources efficiently, but also taking care of the employees, because we know that they are our best and biggest asset.
And President Biden issued an executive order in July on diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yep.
I'm sorry, that's my angry 1-year-old puppy. And
Oh,
accessibility
no.
in the federal workforce. I'm wondering
Yeah.
if you might be able to give us a sort of update on progress that the administration has made, and any update on statistics of just how many employees in the federal workforce are, women, LGBTQ, people with disabilities, et cetera.
Sure. So, I'm very excited about this executive order that the president issued at the end of June. It's, focused on diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. It is a whole of government initiative. It is very bold, very ambitious. It's very exciting about what we're trying to do in the federal government, again, to be the model employer of what it means to really embrace diversity in this country, and how it is a significant asset in any company and employer and government institution. So OPM has very significant equities in this work. We will be a leader in implementing some major pieces of it across the federal government. Right now, what I think makes this so incredible and comprehensive is that agencies have just submitted assessments that they have done of their agency, of where they are, what they're doing well, where there are barriers that they're facing, what are some of the ideas that they have on how they might further promote diversity in so many different ways that you just mentioned, the different communities. And we'll be issuing a government-wide plan very soon that would give a template for the agencies on what we want their individual plans to look like. Now, related to data, we've been starting to draw down what that looks like as a benchmark. I think it's important. You can't decide like where you want to go until you know where you are. And so we do have the data, agency by agency. We've shared it with them for them to be able to see what their current situation looks like. So I don't have that in totality right now, but it is something that we look forward to sharing more broadly as we start to get more information from the agencies, be able to confirm, those numbers. And of course, we want to be able to be very transparent and accountable about where we fall, related to different races, ethnicities, individuals with disabilities, the LGBTQ plus community, all the different ways that we have such an incredible, diverse country, that we want that reflected in the federal government.
Director Ahuja, unfortunately, we are all out of time today, but I am so appreciative
Wow.
for you joining us. Good luck with
Time flies.
the next few months, and thank you again for talking about your priorities, and especially the vaccination mandate, and hopefully you'll come again soon.
Yes, thank you so much.
I'm Jackie Alamany. As always, thanks for watching. To check out what interviews we have coming up, please head to WashingtonPostLive.com to register and find more information about our upcoming programming. Thanks again for joining us today.